Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The SPA in Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is intentional living. Amazing people like you share ways to live by design and with purpose to ensure that this short ride of life occurs with choice, physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-giving knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and creating a positive impact through intentional living. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation. With us today is Anna Ditchburn, known affectionately as the world's best optimization coach. She empowers others with her ultimate courage, stories of healing and forgiveness, systemic sexual abuse, and 2 forced abortions by a stepfather, then having 16 and now 18 consecutive miscarriages were once Anna's only story. Now her story is one that she has reclaimed her power, freed herself from the tether of shame and pain, and has made it her life purpose to help others do the same and live the life of their dreams. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Diane. It's so amazing to be a part of your show. You are doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, your story is just phenomenal of just all the different things that you've gone through. And you actually have a process that you do about moving past fear. And you do it in like 60 seconds or less. Tell us a little bit about that.
I would start with talking about the fear. I want people to understand that fear this is something that we can choose to feel. Okay, so the fear is it's a very strong feeling when we are in danger. So the fear helps us to keep out of being killed or being eaten, or getting like whatever can happen to you. But once you realize that, okay, I can choose to be courageous or I can choose to be fearful, and I have a choice, that's where you can change everything you want. Because I know you had a guest just recently talking about the fear. You can be fearful things that haven't even happened to you.
Right.
Or some things that maybe you had childhood trauma in the past, and you know that those things were scary or were dangerous for you as a child, but now you still have a trauma about this, and it can be not even dangerous or harmful to you as an adult, but you still have this response. So
Right.
realizing that you can make a choice towards being fearful or towards being courageous, that's the goal. And so within 60 seconds, what I do, I usually pause. I usually listen to my body, listen to my mind, and I identify what exactly am I scared for.
Right.
For example, when you go for the job interview, I remember I was so scared of being interviewed, which is like, for some people it's like, yeah, but for me it was like a torture. And then I realized that, okay, I need to do something with that. And so a few things I did. It's being prepared and knowing what you want and creating the very event. And so I paused. I asked myself, what is exactly I'm afraid of? Which the answer was being uncomfortable and not knowing what's going to happen and being judged. And so, okay, this is my fears, but what exactly I want to feel, what exactly I want what outcome I want from this situation.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so when you have this knowing that everything is going to be okay, the fear just disappears.
Right. Well, it's so important. Is sometimes it's like the simplest things that we don't allow ourselves to do, like just asking ourselves those questions, right? Like so many times we're so much trying to avoid the fear or, being uncomfortable or things that come up that, asking ourselves those deeper questions and being able to identify what's really there for us, then we can ask better questions, we can approach it differently, and we can start looking at how we really want it to be. So I love that tool for people because people have so many different fears, and what's fearful to one person is not fearful to another. So finding out what those things for us personally are really make a difference, and our life experiences come into play with that as well. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know that you've had quite a journey, and there's been many things that have had you, feel disempowered or out of alignment, and your what you were facing in your childhood, and particularly, really affected your journey. I'd love for you to kind of talk about what that was like for you, and how you moved through that.
Well, Diane, as you mentioned at the beginning, I was sexually abused by my stepfather for 6 years, since I was 15 until 21. And this resulted in 2 pregnancies and in 2 forced legal abortions. And I remember when I was 15, I was really scared. When it happened for the first time, I didn't know how to react. I got frozen. And so I have been blaming myself for a very long time for not being able to do anything. And this huge emotion of guilt and fear and shame were really dictating my life. And it didn't happen, the abuse didn't really happen just suddenly. When I was 4 years old, my biological father left us. And I didn't realize how impactful those trauma was for me. The fear of being abandoned again and again made me feel like I have to be a very good girl, so people do not leave me. I have to please them. I have to do better. Like, if I just love them better, if I just do more things for them, they won't leave me. I didn't realize where it was coming from. And then when I was 10 years old, my mom met my stepfather, and who looked like a knight in shining armor at those point. We were broken. The whole family was broken. My mom was 24 years old, a woman when my biological father left. So we were struggling financially, mentally, and physically. And when my stepfather came, my mom was so afraid to lose him, because it's been like 6 years she was by herself, that she gave him all the power in our family. And we didn't realize how abusive physically and verbally and mentally he was. And so me and my brother very quickly learned how to walk on the eggshells and how to please my stepfather. So just for him to not be angry at us. And everything in our family, we thought that he knows better. He's a man, he's our provider, he's our supporter. So we have to listen whatever he tells us, which is like, now when I think about this, so crazy, because what parents do, they undervalue kids' thinking, kids' emotions, kids' desire to learn things. Because what parents do? No, I know better. I know what to do. You're too young. And so I learned, do not listen to my intuition or not learn from my mistakes, but listen to my stepfather, what he's saying. And when I was 15, I was literally conditioned to do anything what he says.
Right. Right. Well, I think for people to also, a lot of times people think like this is something that happens overnight. And I think that it's helpful to see, the years of grooming and, laying doubt and, looking at the family dynamics. And there's so many different factors that go into these things. And so many times people find it hard to fathom that these things happen within families. And if you don't know any different, you may even assume, well, this is how families are, right? This is how they survive. This is how they react. Was there anyone else in your family that knew what you were going through, and how were you able to relate with everyone else at that time?
I didn't tell anyone because when it happened for the first time, my stepfather threatened my life and the life of my mom and my younger brother. And knowing what he was capable of, I believed him. And he was always inserting the shame in me. He was always saying that if I tell my mom, she's gonna hate me, she's gonna expel me from the house. And for me to lose my mom was the most scariest thing at this moment, because I thought if I tell her, I'm going to break her woman's happiness. And I didn't realize at those time how codependent she is. She was in a codependent relationship with him because she couldn't stop his tyrannical parenthood. In Russia, where I was born, it was very shameful to be a mother of two, a single mother of two. So she was saying, doesn't matter what he is doing to us, as long as we have a family. And I couldn't understand why she was saying that. Now I do.
Right.
No one knew because I couldn't say. But I did tell my girlfriend at this moment when it first time happened. But she knew who my stepfather was, and she got scared as well. And so our secret stays between us.
Right. Well, at least you had somebody to talk to through it. And I'm sure there's a confusion as, a young girl and then a young woman of, that between the family and cultural and a lot of things that are going on that you're trying to, weigh through. So Anna, with all the things that were going on with you, what was the turning point for you to get out of that and change that?
Diane, I didn't have a one turning point. I think it was the accumulative effect, because when I was 21, I remember I was driving my car and the voice inside me, a very, very quiet voice, was saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I was it was in the point when I was getting suicidal, because it's very, very dark and very lonely place to keep such a secret, such a huge secret, when you want to just yell and scream, please help, he's hurting me, but you can't. And the more you keep this secret, it's like a cancer. The more it eats you from the inside. The more you keep those negative feelings inside you, like a shame, the more it just shadow your light within you. And so you became just like a walking body, literally. There is no joy, there is no happiness, there is no light in life. And I heard this voice, I can't do this anymore. And I started to speeding up. And I remember driving so fast and just thinking, just crush this car in the tree, just crush it in the tree and it's gone. And then another voice came that said, why you? Why should you struggle? You are here for much, much bigger things. And I literally, 2 seconds before I crashed the car in the tree, I stopped. Diane, and I thought, really, why me? Why me? Why am I the person who should struggle? And that was the point when I decided to leave the house. And my stepfather didn't want me to leave. He was trying to manipulate me through my mom. He said, well, if you leave the house, I'm going to expel your mother. because I don't need her anymore. And I thought, you know what? I've been trying to save my mom for a long time. And I don't think she wanted to be saved, because I asked her so many times to leave this man and she just didn't want to. And I said, you know what? You can do whatever you want. I'm leaving. But what I haven't realized, Diane, that when I left, I literally took all the trauma with me. And that was running my life on the background as well. And at some point, I even started to become like my stepfather, verbally abusive and mentally abusive, because that's how I used to live. That's kind of emotions I used to feel. So I started doing exactly the same things that my stepfather was doing to me and my brother, emotionally abuse friends, people that I loved. And another a huge turning point for me was when I moved to Australia and I met my husband, Laban. He's going to be on your podcast, I know.
Mhm.
And I wanted to become a mom, but I had some challenges. And as you mentioned, I couldn't hold the pregnancy. We had altogether 18 miscarriages by March 2023. But when I was going through my miscarriage number 11, I was in the hospital. I became a VIP guest in the hospital, by the way, in
I can
Royal Women's
imagine.
Hospital in Melbourne. Not something I am very proud of, but I set a record for the most amount of consecutive miscarriages in Melbourne. And the doctor called me aside and he said, Anna, we can't find any physical reason why you're losing your babies. And he said, this is something with your mind and something with your heart. And I knew exactly what it was, because all these years I was trying to bottle this down and just do not think about those trauma. I didn't realize how impactful it was on my life. And as they say, body keeps the score.
Yes.
And what I realized, Diane, right now is that body follows the mind. And I want to explore this a little bit, because it's not. For example, when you go for the operation and then they give you anesthetic and put you asleep, you fall asleep. You can't feel any pain, right? Because your mind is asleep. It doesn't send any signals to your body. And or when you hit your leg, like you can feel the pain, but it's actually not the physical pain, it's the pain in your brain.
Right.
And then I realized my trauma is literally impacting my ability to hold this baby. And that was the turning point when I decided to tell my husband Laban what was happening. And Diane, he reacted the way I was always hoping he would. He became so supportive. He realized, I see now why some of your behaviors were so unexplainable. And he helped me to start my healing journey. And I saw counselors, psychologists, psyche professionals, NLP specialists. And what really helped me is the hypnotherapy. It really helped me to face my deepest, darkest, and eliminate those negative, stuck emotions in my body that were holding me back. And that's where I finally felt free.
That is so amazing. And, you went on to become a hypnotherapist yourself. And, for those who've never worked with one before, like, what can people expect with that?
If people haven't worked with a hypnotherapist, it depends what you want. So you would expect, depending on the situation, but if it's something really deep and rooted in trauma, childhood trauma, you would probably expect that your hypnotherapist will help you to get back into your trauma and to see through your own eyes, through your adult's eyes, what was happening at those times. Because for me, those sexual abuse was so scary and was so big and was so shameful when I was 15 years old. But when I looked through the lens of my grown up, my 31 years old Anna, I saw that those kind of things were not my things to be shameful of. And so this really helped me to understand what was happening, to forgive my perpetrator, my mom, and most importantly, myself. Because as I mentioned, I was literally blaming myself for not being able to do anything. And then I realized, hey, it was my reaction. It was my body's reaction, because I knew if I do something, I would probably be killed. Mm-hmm. And so when you work with a hypnotherapist, it's like someone holds your hand and take you through your deepest, darkest, and help you to face it, because this is the only way to overcome the trauma. It's not overcome, but go through. Mm. Right. And then you would probably expect to eliminating all those stuck emotions and negative beliefs. And hypnotherapist will help you to replace your negative beliefs on the positive beliefs. Because, if you imagine the mind, I'm just showing for our listeners, I'm just showing like an egg, for example. From the age of 0 to 9, everything we hear about us, everything we see, what kind of relationship our parents have, what our parents think about us, what our friends think about us, it all goes in our subconscious. It's like in a lower part of egg. And we believe everything we see and hear. From the age 9, between 9 and 10, or 9 and 12, we start developing a critical thinking, which is our filter. And whatever we hear and see, it goes through our filter. And so what's happening when we grown up and we start realizing that actually I am beautiful, I am positive, people do love me, but all those positive beliefs that don't go through the critical thinking into the subconscious, because subconscious runs our life on a 95%.
Right.
And so the critical thinking is protecting what is in subconscious. But the hypnotherapist helps you to make bridges through your critical thinking and literally replace your negative beliefs and negative thoughts on a positive. Mm-hmm. But it's work in progress as well. 100% of this work depends on you and your desire.
Right, absolutely. So what makes it different working with you as either a coach or a hypnotherapist?
That's a very good question. Thank you so much, Diane. I think the experience I went through, the lessons I've learned through going my healing journey, helped me to resonate with person, helped me to understand what this person is feeling when we are talking about sexual abuse or when we are talking about limiting beliefs. I have so much love and compassion for these people. And I'm not saying that other hypnotherapists, are not worth it, but I don't understand when people just read in the books about some situations and try to help people, not even knowing what those people feel or going through. I think that's what makes me not bad. How do I explain?
Well, we talk about that as being street cred, right? That is your experience.
My strength.
Right?
It's my strength and it's my superpower, knowing what person is going through. Exactly. And I have so much love for those people. because, I've done so much healing. I've tried so many different healing tactics and methods. And I'm not sure if I can talk about this, but I've tried medical grade MDMA. And that was one of the best things I've experienced, where I felt this unconditional love, when I felt this unconditional forgiveness. Like, it was such a powerful tool for me to understand what is going in the world and with those people, that I just want to pass the same similar feelings to my clients, where they feel the unconditional love and forgiveness for themselves.
Right, right. And people have different paths to get there, and it's more of like, what works for one person may not work for another, and being able to be compassionate, and having empathy for what that is, and to be able to relate to people is such a big thing. And that's such a blessing that you bring to people, is to be able to relate to their experiences and to be able to show up for them in such a real way. And for people to meet you today, they would be able to see just the joy that you have, the love, the things that you've created together with Laban. And it's so beautiful for our listeners to be able to see that you can go through really troubling, dark moments and be able to come out on the other side as the person that you hope to be, right? The one that you create to be, and taking responsibility for all of it and what you learn from that. So I think that is such a beautiful thing that you bring into the world.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much.
I love. So along that lines of creating, I mean, this is one of the things I love asking my guests, is because we do create not only our life, but our environment that we live in. And I've been in your beautiful home, and I know that, we live differently in our kitchen versus our bedroom or our bathroom, any of those different rooms. What is your favorite room in your home, and why?
And that's a good question. I think my favorite one is my bedroom. Because I feel like we have a big bedroom. You saw it. You stayed in my house. We have a big window with a lot of natural lights, and we face the ocean. And every morning when I wake up, I can see a beautiful sunrise is coming, like under the water and under the palms. And we have beautiful trees as well, with some birds on it, and the iguanas. And I think this is my favorite moment every single morning, when I see this beauty, and I'm so grateful for being alive. I'm so grateful for living in Mexico, and I'm so grateful for having the man of my dreams that I've also created. And it's like a ritual every morning. I'm so grateful for seeing this beauty. And I think that's why my bedroom is most favorite part of my house.
It's beautiful. I mean, being able to wake up. I woke up to that view, and it's so beautiful to be that close to nature and to have that experience. And, I think there's nothing that allows us to be having such deep gratitude than the reflection of nature. I mean, you look at all the beautiful things that God's created, and to be able to have it as your everyday experience is such an amazing thing. And I know our time's coming to an end here, and I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they best do that, Anna?
You can find me on my website. It's annaditchburn.com. I just recently started my new podcast, Happy on the Inside. You can find it on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, and Facebook and Instagram. It's Mrs. Anna Ditchburn.
Wonderful. I love that. Well, and as you know, our theme for this season is intentional living. So in what ways are you living an intentional life?
Oh, I love this question. My favorite ones. Can I tell you the story? A very quick story. I literally started to live intentionally And for me, it's intentionally choosing my thoughts, intentionally choosing what I want to feel. When I was 31, and I found myself in a very toxic relationship with my first husband in Australia. And I remember I was holding, like I was holding the tablets again to kill my to end my life. And my mom called me and she said, Anna, I just felt like calling you. And I said, Mom, I'm so sorry, but if you won't hear from me again, just know I love you, but I can't live like this. I literally married my stepfather. And I realized it later. And she said, Anna, before you do anything to yourself, I want you to sit down and write an explicit list, the list of your ideal partner that you want. And I didn't believe her. I was like, all men are same, all the same. She was like, I just want you to do this before you do anything to yourself. And I said, why? She said, because that's how we create our life. And I sat down and I wrote an explicit list, in explicit details, the list of my ideal partner. And I literally explained how he looks like. He's bald. He's a New Zealander, because I went to New Zealand and I fell in love with those people. He's very kind. He's very generous. He is very loyal and honest, and he doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs. And for those who knows anything about New Zealand, it's literally impossible to find such a New Zealander. And I started believing that this man exists. And my mom said, do not focus on negative things. Focus on what you want. It doesn't matter what is happening in your life right now. Just keep the focus on what you want. And so I was intentionally choosing my thoughts, and I knew he exists. And a week and a half later, a bold New Zealander who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, who is very loyal and very honest, stopped me on the street in the middle of the day in Melbourne. And we've been happily married after since then. This is the intentional living. I'm choosing what I want. I'm choosing what I want to think and what I want to feel. And the miracles happened in my life.
I love it. Thank you so much for just being you and sharing your journey and just being an inspiration of hope. I so appreciate it. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Diane, and namaste. We are traveling India right now, and it's very inspiring for me to think about the gratitude, to be grateful, for what we have in life. And I'm very grateful for meeting you, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. And for our listeners out there, for even if it's just that one person out there who's just going through a struggle in whatever that looks like, know that you can have that intentional life. You can write down, as Anna did, what is it that you do want? Look at how things are and how you want to have them different, because we really are that powerful. And, we have that within ourselves. That's our God-given intuition, our knowing, we get to, when we explore that, it gets to show up for us. And so until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now.